Hey guys, it's Gaming Pretzel here, and today we're going to be doing a video that's been a long time coming. I said I'd make this a while ago, but I just kept not being able to do it for some reason due to various things happening. I was hanging out with my friends a lot. Didn't get the chance to make the video, but now I finally have the chance. So here it is, the review of Vampire Savior, or as this specific Dreamcast version is called, Vampire Chronicle. Let's get to it. Vampire Savior was released in 1997 by Capcom. Also known as Darkstalkers 3 on the PlayStation, it is the third game in the Darkstalkers series, and by fans is often considered as the best entry in the series. The series started off with, of course, Darkstalkers, known as just Vampire in Japan, bit of an odd title. Then it continued with Night Warriors, Darkstalkers Revenge, very lazy title in the US. Whereas in Japan, it was actually given the better title this time as Vampire Hunter, Darkstalkers Revenge. I like that title a lot more. And then Vampire Savior comes around. In the arcades, it's known as Vampire Savior across the whole world, but on home consoles, it's called Darkstalkers 3 across the board. And then Darkstalkers Chronicle, or Vampire Chronicle, is released on Dreamcast, only in Japan. However, the game was later ported to PSP worldwide. The version we are playing today is the Dreamcast version, which I have a reproduction copy of because I don't want to have to get a Japanese copy and get some weird disc to play a Japanese copy on, and it's apparently quite expensive. Anyway, so this is technically a special version of Vampire Savior because it gives you the ability to select any version of any Darkstalkers character from any of the Darkstalkers games. So you could have Darkstalkers 1 version of Dimitri fight a Vampire Savior version of Dimitri, pretty cool feature. Now, the reason I personally consider this version of the game to be the best version is because of how accurate it is to the arcade, the fact that it's probably better than the arcade version because it includes all the characters, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As for the other ports, I do own the PS1 version, however, that version is missing frames and isn't as good as other ports, so we're not looking at that version. I would really like to get the Saturn version someday because it looks really good as well, and I just love the Saturn, but I just don't own it now. Also, for some reason, it has some strange sound issue on certain menus and stuff like that on the character select, which is a shame because I love the music in this game. Now, if you'd like to experience the original arcade version, I guess you could emulate it, but you could also get the Darkstalkers Resurrection compilation, which includes both Night Warriors and Vampire Savior in one, and they're both the arcade versions with some strange font modifications for some reason. But they both seem to be arcade perfect ports for the most part, so those are good buys. You may also notice while we're playing this game that the art style in it is very 90s Capcom, and it looks very similar to games like Street Fighter Alpha and Marvel vs. Capcom, and this is because this is where the art style used in those games originated. It's a shame there isn't any new games coming out in the Darkstalkers series. It really is. And unfortunately, there probably never will be another game in this series either, because a lot of the developers have moved on from Capcom at this point and stuff like that. And also, Darkstalkers Resurrection failed because they tried to use that as a way to get players to get playing Darkstalkers again, but nobody played them. So yeah, you probably will never see another Darkstalkers game. It's a damn shame. Anyway, let's begin the review. Okay, so the plot. 16 years after Night Warriors, Belial, the ruler of the Demon Realm, dies. However, around the same time, the demon lord Jeddah revives after he was killed 100 years ago by a Zom. Seeing the sad state of affairs in the demon realm, he decides the only way to save it is to recreate it. So what he does is he takes a Zom's soul and turns it into a dimension called the Majigan. He decides to gather all souls into the Majigan, giving him control over the demon realm and humanity. Thus, the Darkstalkers are the last defenders of all souls and must defeat Jeddah before it's too late. Pretty good plot, not Mortal Kombat levels or anything, but, it's still fairly good for a fighting game plot. If you want to know more about the plot, I recommend you check out Nostalgic Gamer's videos on each of the Darkstalkers characters. It goes more in depth. The game unfortunately doesn't have many options in the menu. There was an online mode, but it doesn't work these days unless you get a fan server or something. When you first boot up the arcade mode, you're presented with the option of picking your round and meter type from 3 games, and then picking your character. You choose the version of the character you want. Let's start with Savior mode. In Savior mode, you have access to the Dark Force, which gives you the ability to use a special power that you normally can't do without a complicated combination, such as Donovan throwing his sword, Morgan creating a copy of herself, BB Hood shooting missiles, and such. The game still has supers and EX moves though, with some having some good comic relief to them. This is the gameplay style from Vampire Savior, and is a very unique and fun one. Also in Vampire Savior, you have lives instead of rounds, which is again, unique. This was before Smash Bros after all, so it isn't ripping it off, kids. Next up, we have Hunter type from the second game, Vampire Hunter, or Night Warriors as it was called over here in the States. In this mode, you have regular rounds, like most fighting games. In addition, here you don't have your Dark Force and just have your supers, such as Dimitri turning into a swarm of bats, or BB Hood's beautiful memory super, where she lunges at you with knives and cries a pool of tears and drowns you in it. A favorite super of mine, and a shame I didn't get footage of it. Like Street Fighter Alpha, you can of course stock the super gauge, which you can also do in Vampire Savior mode. This is a very fun mode and good for those who want something more traditional. In addition, the music changes to the music from Night Warriors, which is an awesome soundtrack. Here's a favorite of mine. Awesome, right? That's Lord Raptor's theme, by the way. Great theme. Pretty cool character as well. Before we move on to Vampire mode, let's check out the EX options menu.